it's not that hard for me to, be dumb for the camera.
Kez puts himself in a good spot. A flash for Prolly to save that. Tries to get the ult down.
You had a really good score. You went 5-2-4 that game, so that was pretty impressive.
So did I.
No, you didn't. You went 1-4 probably.
Yeah.
That's not.
That was part of the comp, really.
Well, the trolling of interviews and the analyst desk all came from I'm gonna say something that you would never guess.
How many more times do you mispronounce Yasuo?
Yasuo?
Yasuo.
Yosu?
Okay.
Yosu. Yosu. There we go.
You're pronouncing it wrong. It's Yosu.
No, I would have never guessed that playing League of Legends would have got me anywhere close to where I am. Whenever I played, even when we first started doing tournaments, it was always just this is something I'm doing this weekend. Next weekend I'll do something else. I don't think anyone could ever really predict this would be the outcome for me. I guess the league career started really with Legion was the first team, and we tried to qualify for LCS before LCS was a thing, the very first split, and we failed and it ended up disbanding. After that, I had probably the longest stint I've had was with Complexity. I was on and off their team for about a year and a half, and I actually got kicked from that team. I don't know if it's me being super stubborn, but every time that things went bad or I was kicked or I wasn't really sure of what to do next, I normally just went back to playing League. So I kind of did that, and alternatively that gave me direction for my life. It got me into the coaching now. H2K kind of approached me in November, and they kind of just offered, would you be interested in coaching for an EU Challenger team? And I was a bit skeptical at first, but kind of wanted to try my hand to see if I could do it. And I definitely think I made the right choice deciding to become a coach and moving out to EU. I've been here for 6 weeks, and every week just kind of gets better,
Ryu hits 2 with his third ultimate and the collateral damage from behind. H2K are showing up.
Yeah, they're all just honest and humble people, so it's really easy to work with them. Everyone really understands this is a communication game, this is a team game, so everyone does their part and really is just happy that all the cogs are working together.
H2K, 38.5 minutes, pushing forward, and the League of Upsets continues.
Always great hearing from Prolly there, and we also see Prolly there behind his troops up on the stage, which H2K is of course setting up to get ready. Welcome back to the European League Championship Series. We're here joined by the coaches of the Copenhagen Wolves and Gambit Gaming, Dentist and Leviathan. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Hello.
We're going to start by picking your brains immediately, because earlier in the show we asked you guys at home to send us your questions with the hashtag #AskACoach. And here's what you wanted to know from these guys, from @Woody170196. What is the biggest challenge in keeping a team motivated, and how do you get the best out of your players? And I think it works perfectly for the both of you, so Dentist, maybe you first.
Well, as the Fisher can agree on that, the best thing to keep players motivated, uppulse. The Danish thing. You gotta get that going as a Copenhagen Wolf. But beside that, keeping them interested in the game is the most difficult task, because they have to play the game for 8 to 12 hours a day. So keeping them motivated and interested in the game is the most important part. If you did that, you're good.
Yeah, I don't think Gambit really lacks motivation. But one of the biggest things, I think, is just keeping everyone on the same page and keeping everyone understanding that we're here as a team, we compete as a team, and when we're successful, it's Gambit Gaming being successful, and when we're unsuccessful, it's Gambit Gaming being unsuccessful. So as long as everyone's understanding that it's a team game and we're working towards it together, and I just think that's one of the most important things that we can do.
Yeah, both great insights and a great way to look at your team. Now be sure to keep your inquiries coming by tweeting @LOL Esports and using that hashtag #AskACoach, and we'll check out some of your responses later in the week. For now, though, we're going to get into ROCCAT versus H2K, but we have to get your thoughts on your matchup later today. The Wolves are playing Gambit. You guys are both on a hot streak, so how are you both looking forward to that one? Ben.
Well, statistically, we have the lead. We won the first game, so it's only natural that we're going to win the second one. But besides the joke, it's going to be a tough match. I mean, Moscow 5 is Moscow 5 was the 0-5 with us, and after that they went on a huge streak, winning 5 games in spectacular fashion.
So now you can turn it around.
And we're going to turn it around. We were the end, and now we're the beginning of the next one.
No, they're just going to be the 6th in our win streak. I don't see us losing to Copenhagen Wolves. We scrimmed them, and they're a good team, but they have a couple picks that I think if we take them away, it'll just be another game for us, another win for Gambit Gaming.
Well, yeah, that might be true that you scrim us and you win a couple of games in scrimmages, but as we all know, scrimmages aren't LCS.
Yeah, but
And
we
in
can. We win
LCS,
scrims,
will
we win
perform,
stage
my
as
friend.
well. We haven't had any issues translating our scrim results to stage results, as you can see.
I really hope all the players are as confident as these two coaches here, because then we will have a fantastic game.
It'll be a great game. Well, we'll see how that one plays out. I know you guys are fired up, but we got to turn to our next match. It's ROCCAT versus H2K. They met last back in week 4 when H2K won the 30-minute match by capitalizing on a poor laning phase by ROCCAT. Let's start by taking a look at the laning phase, the lineup of ROCCAT. Overpow, Jankos. We have Nukeduck, Woolite, Vander, and their coach Ducky. So they actually lost to you guys last week and the day after they won versus Elements. Tell me a little bit about that match that they lost versus you guys. It was Freeze on his Draven, of course, was very instrumental.
Yeah, the Draven is obviously instrumental because I think we're the only team playing with Draven. So unless you scrim us, you don't get any practice time against the Draven. And Draven as an AD carry is very specific. Like, people assume the wrong things when they talk about Draven. They always think he's got the most aggressive and strongest laning phase out of every AD carry in the game. And that's actually not the way you play Draven. As a Draven player myself and as the best in Europe, I would call myself, I know that. And I taught Alice a thing or two. And yeah, it's actually like pretty beneficial getting the Draven, but besides that, ROCCAT is a pretty awesome team. I mean, we weren't going into the game assuming that we would win, and we weren't sure that we were going to win, but we were as prepared as we could be, and I think it played us in our favor.
You were talking about scrimmages before as well, actually the both of you, and what we heard from a lot of teams coming in, and I think you echo it as well, is that ROCCAT is so good in that offline setting, but what do you think is lacking when they come here on stage, Leviathan?
Well, you can take a look at the Elements ROCCAT game, and you can see that they have the ability to play very well. They have a great understanding of the game, both mechanically and strategically. All that matters is if ROCCAT is able to take what they know and able to translate it onto the stage, and that comes with confidence. It's going to come with experience with them just playing more and more, but really it's not anything that they need to train in their game specifically. It's just making sure that when they get on stage, they're able to play their game and play to their maximum capacity.
It really is scary when you hear again these two guys praise ROCCAT despite them being 4 and 6 at the moment, all the way down the bottom of the standings. And yeah, I agree 100%. The way they play on the stage is so different, and you can see even a guy like Jankos, who normally is so good at finding the right ganks, he's playing extremely passive, he's just waiting for the right moment, and then suddenly they face Elements and everything just seems to work for them. For me, honestly, and for ROCCAT, I think get a good start in a game and you are more than fine, but if you do start falling behind, then we see this like 50-60 minute mentality where they just have to try and draw or like drag it out, and that doesn't work for them.
Yeah, ROCCAT's late game, I think, is one of the best late games in the league. Whenever a scrim goes past 30-40 minutes against ROCCAT, we can just write it off as a loss. So I think if they're able to hold on or at least get a good early lead, you're going to see a successful ROCCAT.
And it's fun actually you say it, because in the LCS itself, whenever ROCCAT goes late game, they lose. Because in the start of this split, at least, they relied on like Woolite being the hyper carry, and he never really managed to win the game for his team later on. There was always a lot of things going wrong for them in the last few team fights, but yet they always managed to get there. So we're going to have to see if they are now, as you guys say, really, really strong in the late game, but what we have seen in the past has not been good enough from them.
No. One strategy that did work out very well for them is shutting down Kevin in that Elements game. Do you think Overpow is also a guy that's going to need a little bit of help a little bit further down the line as one of the weaker points in that lineup, or does he just also have to wait till he gets used to that role fully? Because when we talked to him, he did say it's not that big of a difference between mid and top, but we do see that sometimes it doesn't run out well. Dentist.
Overpow had a pretty impressive performance last year. I think it was like something like 6-0-2 or 6-0-1, something along the lines. And he had a pretty good performance with a bit of help of Jankos. And focusing him in the top lane, it's just a matter. Like, focusing on top lane is how the game is played right now. Most of the time you got mobile mid lane champions, so a gank is not like damned to succeed. And the bot lane, after the sidestone is bought, you're pretty much safe because you got the good vision game. So the top lane is the lane that you're going to attack if you want to attack. And that worked out pretty well against Elements, and let's see if they keep it up. Yeah,
I don't know too much about Overpow. I haven't studied his game, so I can't comment too much on him. But I've been following Odwamne for a really long time, and I know he's a very, very strong top laner, very skilled in that position. So if we do see a 1v1 matchup and Overpow somehow manages to go even or get a win, that'll be very important for ROCCAT.
Yeah, that will be a key matchup in this one. As you mentioned, Odwamne of H2K. Let's take a look at that lineup. As said, Odoamne, Lulex, Ryu, have Hjarnan, Kissing, and they're coached by Prolly, who we saw that a nice feature on as well. They are absolutely on a tear, just like you guys, very convincingly as well. They went 2-0 last week once again, and we've had Jankos told me in a post-game interview that he doesn't think that the challenger teams or the teams that have newly come into the LCS are so good. It's just that ROCCAT dropped the ball. I dare to say that a team like H2K does have a lot of potential to grow even more.
I think H2K, the last few weeks have been absolutely fantastic and definitely one of the best teams here in Europe. And getting in Kissing has been such a big thing for them. Not just Kissing himself, like he's playing great. He's really good at roaming. He's finding all the right engages, but it's more him and Hjarnan together. It's working so well. They kill Forgiven one-on-one, and it's not the first time where they take a lead in the laning phase, get an early tower, and Hjarnan plays like Sivir or Graves. I think they can push their waves very fast, and then he very easily rotates to the other lanes, and H2K plays around it, and he gets a massive goal lead for his team. And again, that also allows Kissing to just roam around like he wants to because his AD carry becomes so strong, and that has worked so well for them.
Yeah, Kissing's Thresh is just next level. Like, you watch him play Thresh, and you learn things every time. Like, I thought I knew Thresh, and he just plays the champion so well. He's a great addition to the team.
But beside the fact that you bring in Kissing, who is obviously a really good support player, it's also the fact of bringing in a new player. That brings like a whole new different level of motivation, not only to the new player coming into the team, but also to the rest of the team. Because you do two things. First of all, you show all the other players that you are replaceable, and that the organization itself is not afraid to replace you if you underperform. So they all get that boost in terms of moral and motivation, and that helps a lot in practice. And as we can see, it transits pretty brilliant to the LCS.
So how come it did work for H2K and Kissing coming in, but it didn't for Elements last week?
It's a gamble. Bringing in a new player is always a gamble. It's always how the team will react, and you don't know that before you bring in the player. So all you can do as a team is try it if you feel the need to try, and you got to take that gamble, I guess.
And plus, I don't think Wicked was necessarily the issue with Elements. I believe there's a greater underlying issue, which maybe switching out Wicked for Kevin could have fixed. Obviously, it may not have worked, and the current switch with Crepo coming in could be beneficial for the team as well. But yeah, roster changes, like Denta said, are always a risk.
What about in your case now, where you have Betsy playing instead of Nick in the middle? I know Nick is sick, obviously, so he's not benched like that. But for you guys, was it easy going into last week with Betsy and to say we know exactly what he can do?
We were very accepting of the situation. It wasn't so much that we knew Nick was sick, and we knew we had to find someone else for mid, so there was no issues. It was just, okay, let's find a mid laner, let's practice with a mid laner. Betsy filled in perfectly. We're happy to have him. When Nick gets healthy, obviously we're going to try Nick out again. It's not like hashtag keep Betsy and Betsy's going to be the only thing.
You started it now.
Yeah, exactly, right? But no, it was very easy to transition with Betsy. He's a good player. He has a level-headed mind. He's not a rager, and he just fit in really nicely, and we're happy to have him.
Definitely shows for you guys. Back to the H2K ROCCAT matchup, though. Let's actually take a listen to the way H2K communicates in a team fight now that Kissing is in there.
Killer.
Aurelia. Oh, never mind. Lulex.
I'm moving. We can fight. I'm coming. I'm collapsing. Fight. I'm collapsing. I believe in
Aurelia.
I believe in
Aurelia.
Nice.
Jump.
Let's
go. Keep on going.
No, keep. He's low. Colby is coming.
Okay, Q2. 1 second.
Colby is coming.
Okay, really nice.
I really love how you have like Kissing and Hjarnan trying to keep it somewhat cool and like communicate a little bit, and then Odoamne is just yelling targets left and right all the time, and it's a bit of a mess. But like for you guys as coaches, is this good communication in a team, or would you fix anything?
Well, as a coach, I say it's loud, it's decisive, but there's a lack of nice. So
yeah,
I would work on that.
The one thing I do like is they're always quick to call the targets. It doesn't really matter how you say it as long as the correct things are being translated. Some people like to get excited in comms and yell. Some people are more calculated, like you could see from the mic check from the Fnatic SK match. But as long as you're calling targets and information is getting communicated and the players are able to understand it, then it's fine.
Is this something that you guys train on specifically? If you see those listen-ins and you obviously know how your team communicates in scrims as well, is that something where they should find their own way?
I think you can't practice that because LCS is a whole new different level than the scrimmage is in the middle of the week. You get more excited on stage. You are in the zone. Like, you are in the middle of the moment, and then you can't practice that moment. You can't simulate that moment. We tried that, and it wasn't that successful because obviously a scrim is not LCS.
Yeah, we try to simulate it as well. Like, there will be games where I ask the players to, okay, pretend this is the stage, but like it doesn't have the right.
Well, you can cheer behind them like you're the crowd.
Yeah,
maybe.
with the white noise in their headsets. But no, it like if the team gets loud or the team gets quiet in comms, it's really just preference. Like, I actually spoke to the team today on the way to the studio about comms, if they liked the volume of our comms, like if we got too excited or didn't get excited enough, and they said it's fine. It's really just a matter of preference.
Do you feel like now we talk about scrims and how it's not in the LCS and there's a big difference from scrimming and playing on the big stage? Have you felt like the scrims here in Europe have gotten more serious now? The teams are really starting to figure out, okay, we need to practice, like we need to try hard every single time. Because when I was a player, you would go in.
Oh, there we go again.
15 minutes later, after we had completely stomped some team, they would just surrender and we would have to go again. And you never really got to finish a game or a complete series. Is that different now? Do teams really take it full try-hard serious in scrims?
It's a thing of mentality, I guess. We, for ourselves, Copenhagen Wolves, we play out every game. We don't surrender after 15 minutes. We don't surrender after 20 minutes. Our games, if we lose them and we are in the game, then it's possible that they go over the 50 minutes. So we never abort the scrimmage. We play it out no matter what. Other teams, I wouldn't say they do it that much. If we got the early game lead and it's huge, then it happens that they surrender after 15, 20 minutes. And actually that's not quite good for us because we can't practice to close out games.
Yeah, I think there's only like 1 or 2 teams in the LCS that will prematurely surrender. We'll surrender games if all 3 lanes are losing and it's like the 7th or 8th game of the day where we're drawn out and tired and we feel there isn't much left to learn. But I think it's usually beneficial to always play the games out even when you're behind a reasonable amount, because you're going to end up in these spots where I know one of the teams that surrenders games, they were in almost identical spot where they paused and quit out. And I knew from that point that they had no practice coming from behind at that spot, because if you think about it, anytime you pause and quit out of a scrim, you're basically saying, if this was a stage game, we would have lost.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try anymore. So if you're ever in a spot where you're quitting out of scrims, you're basically saying, yeah, I don't care about this game anymore. And you can't do that.
By the way, guys, we do have a small tech issue up on stage, so we have a little bit of a delay getting into it, but that's fine because we have these 3 fine gentlemen here to
we can say 2. They're doing most of the talking. It's fine.
Yes, they are. Leviathan, I'd like to pick up where you left off there with the scrimming, because you told me when we ran into each other in the hallway as well a couple of weeks ago, like there's a lot to fix in this team, so it's quite hard to kind of do it all at one time. Yet, it seems like it's almost overnight that you guys have went into this winning streak and a lot of things were fixed, or is that just because of the way those games played out?
Well, if you look at the gold leads and our losses, we were able to hold on to gold leads longer, or at least make the game relevant longer. And there are a lot of things that teams need to do well that just cause you to win games. If your communication is poor and your objective focus is poor, you're not going to win games. There are always things that we can do to get better, like maybe our river crab control needs work, and it's needed to work the whole season, but that's not important to us. What's important to us are the things that are going to give us the greatest chance of victory. So it was kind of like hitting a switch, because maybe we had learned enough things that will allow us to translate our practice into actually winning games, because you need to be able to play both successfully in the early, the mid, and the late. So now we're just kind of refining and making our game clean up a bit. Everyone says Gambit's games are, dirty and sloppy, and I agree, but I mean, a win's a win, right?
What do you think, Dentist?
Sloppy games, never seen that. As going. No, obviously, like when you talk about like questionable wins or like wins that or games that doesn't look too organized, Copenhagen Wolves is a team that should come to mind. But we try to structure it as much as possible. We try to plan out what we can plan out, and then we just feel the moment. We just feel the game and try to win it. And so far, it works pretty great.
How was that actually? Sorry to interrupt you, obviously. For you guys coming into this split, because Copenhagen Wolves last year, number 8, relegation. Gambit last year, relegation as well. Been some changes. I mean, Freeze coming in for Copenhagen Wolves, of course. Pinoy for you guys here on Gambit, Capuchat, and so on. As coaches coming in and looking at these teams and say, we need to turn this around, because we need to obviously get better and better. We need to get a top 6 spot now for the playoffs. And there's so many things I would assume you have to sort out. As a coach, does it feel like it's just too much in the start, or do you just sit down and say, okay, we just take one thing at a time, we slowly get better? Like, how do you guys look at it?
No, I was pretty motivated coming in because it's my first season. It's my first season as a coach, or first split as a coach. So I was pretty motivated from the get-go. And I didn't look at all the problems we got. I looked at the positive things we got in the team and tries to enforce them and work with the positive things we have. And believe me or not, there were a couple of positive things in Copenhagen Wolves from the beginning when I started to work with
The
them.
coach.
Yeah. No,
That was the only one.
You got me there. But yeah, working on the positive things more than focusing on the negative things and trying to fix them was like a huge thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when I was spending my time with Alliance, like Alliance was a very good team, and they did a lot of things really well. And switching from a team that is high level like Alliance to a team that's lower level like Gambit, it was really easy to go. Elements or Alliance did this, Gambit doesn't do that. Why? Oh, well, there's not a good reason. Okay, well, we'll just adapt it. And I was able to take like a lot of the good behavior and good habits that were developed on Alliance and just introduce them into Gambit. And you always, like I said before, it's a process. You just got to hit them one at a time. You make one practice day about one thing. Okay, we're going to work on our vision this game. And then next day you look to try to work on a new thing. Okay, we're going to work on how we siege towers and analyze how we siege. And you just got to hit it one by one.
That seems really interesting to me because I think it seems like a fairly easy thing to do, to look at the things that went right in another team and just try and come up with the same things for your new team. Were there not a couple of instances where you thought, well, no, because of the certain players we have in our team and the way Gambit likes to play, I need to build it up from the ground up?
It's mostly philosophy, I guess. It's not so much I'm telling them exactly how to do things. It's just when I realize that we siege poorly or we do something poorly, I just bring it to their attention. And they have more game knowledge than I'll ever be able to get because it's 5 players who've studied their lanes, come up in their lanes. And when the issue is like, what's the next objective? I guess how do we take this tower? I'll let them come up with the answer, and when they talk it out and they try to implement it in the game and it goes poorly, we'll just analyze what they came up with and maybe come up with something new. Or in most cases, it goes well, and we can just cross it off of our list. Now we know how to siege towers.
And I guess, Dentis, we can say for the Copenhagen Wolves, in the start of the split, you had some problems. Youngbuck didn't really play too well with Airwax. How did you manage to fix it? Like, what's this new strategy you guys are using? Because suddenly you're winning basically every single early game, and you're getting to these late game stages with Freeze and Soaring where they can carry. Like, how did you make that change, and what really happened for you guys?
It's mostly, like, I can't teach them in-game stuff. Mechanically, they're professionals. They're doing this for years. And I can't compare and I can't contest their knowledge when it comes to in-game stuff. What I can fix and influence, however, is the mentality of the players. Like, they have to accept that it's a job, and they have to accept that they have to work hard on what they are doing, and they also have to be confident about what they are able to do. And for some players, it was a case that we were actually overconfident in what they are able to do. So they tried to win the lane, although it wasn't necessary for them to win the lane in order to win the game. So changing the mentality, like defining the role they were playing, was a very important factor for me as a coach.
Yeah, and I just tried to make Gambit talk more. They all know how to win games. They've all won games throughout their careers. But when they're all on the same page, just having to speak about, periodically throughout the game, what's the next objective? What are our win conditions? How do they win the game? Just making sure they're talking and all on the same page just before they go into fights and before they approach objectives. It just allows for more powerful play.
How does it work for you guys coming in as well? You say, okay, you have these visions about how your team is supposed to change or will do better, and I'm sure those are all fine, but you are dealing with people like Diamond, like a Youngbuck who's been in there forever. How easy is it to get through to them and be like, dude, I think you should do this?
Joey is very, very easy to work with. Like, he's a pleasant dude. Like, we clicked from the first moment we met, like in the TeamSpeak. We haven't met ourselves in real life. And when we moved into the gaming house or in the bootcamp in Copenhagen, it was practically the same. Like, from the first moment, we just clicked and we rolled. And it wasn't easy. He has no diva attention whatsoever. He's really, really pleasant to work with, which goes for every single player of the Copenhagen Wolves.
Yeah, and Gambit, like, going into it, they knew I'm the coach. I showed up, did coach things. There was no real issues. No one on the team really has issues with any things that I say. Of course, I maybe suggest that they play Shaco or Vigar too much, but I mean, that's just who I am.
Hey, Vigar was OP.
It's a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they won't listen.
Shaco, maybe not so much.
Yeah, my pocket pick was already implemented. Like freeze was a
Draven.
condition.
Yeah. All right. While we're still waiting for a little delay to get into the game, let's check in again with you guys at home. Earlier today, we asked you to send in your questions for our coaches with the hashtag #AskACoach. And YXPro writes, what is the best approach to in-game communication in your opinion? A single shot caller or everyone shouting at once? We touched on this already, but this might be interesting.
Is that a real question?
It is.
So everyone shouting at once is
Why
no
not?
shot call.
No, that's pretty good.
What if
calls.
everything they shout is
No.
correct?
No. If everything is correct, it's kind of hard because, like, yes, I agree. There are multiple things that can happen, and it's a possibility that multiple things of them are correct. So it is a possibility that 3 people shout different things and all 3 are right. But defining a shot caller or defining 2 shot callers in our case who make the right calls and the right decision is so essential for the game. It's better, like that, at least that's my philosophy and also the philosophy of the team. If you have 1 call and 5 people follow that, it's still better than when everyone just does whatever he wants to.
Even if it's a call.
Even if it's a bad call.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the important things is making sure you have the team work together on the strategy, but then one person is responsible for the dirty work in comms, which is bringing up the discussion of what's the next objective or how do we win or how do they win. One person needs to do that. Then each person has their own responsibility to communicate certain things like flashes or teleport timers, or if you're the jungler, you need to make sure you're communicating where the enemy jungler is. Each person on the team has a job of certain things to communicate. Then there's the one person who's responsible for communicating the map and objective movements, and then most people are responsible for calling out their crowd control and team fights. So the jobs are they're spread out, they're handed out to different people, but if you had to call one person a shot caller, it'd be the person that's responsible for the map movements.
So who's responsible in Gambit?
It's tough because Nick is really good at understanding the map.
Right.
Eddie is really good at calling team fights. And right now, it's most of the responsibility is on Edward and Cabochard. But everyone is like open to the idea of doing the shot calling, and everyone has shown that they're capable of doing it. So right now, it's Edward and Cabo.
Okay.
All right, we actually have another tweet on that topic. Our next question is from @RetroGameShowCA. That could be some good publicity. Who asks, what is the biggest challenge you face with internal team dynamics? Do certain personalities pair or clash more? Dentist.
Well, I don't have any problems with personalities in the team because, like, as I said before, every single member of the team is like so pleasant to work with, and one main reason why we win games is because we are all friends. Like, we work together as friends, we live together as friends, and there are no differences whatsoever. So I don't have any problems with dealing with
It's
personalities.
heaven in the Copenhagen Wolves house. What
Really,
about
yeah.
the Gambit house?
Yeah, sometimes conversations get a bit heated, but that's just mostly because people are really emotionally invested into the game and their job. And so sometimes conversations there might be a couple names thrown around, but I'm always quick to diffuse it, and everyone knows that none of it's personal. It's just sometimes when you speak, when you're very emotionally invested, you maybe say things you don't mean. But I'm always here to go, no, okay, we're going to start over. Let's talk about this again. Okay, what did you see? And then what did you see? Sort of thing. But it's rare. It's maybe once a day, or when you scrim 8 hours.
Once a
You
scrim.
think that's too much?
No, I don't. I can't judge that. I'm not the one to judge.
Okay, because when you scrim 8 hours a day, or you try to play 8 hours a day, you're going to have multiple discussions. We probably have 100 discussions, and then if one of them gets out of hand and I have to touch on it, I think it's fine.
Do you ever like bring it up in a replay and say, I disagree or agree because of this, and you kind of go over it as a team? Or are you more focused on just scrimming and not really watching too many games?
I think watching scrims is useful when you need to use the video footage. So like after a scrim, I'm always in the spectate, and I'm always in the same room as them. So after, I always bring over, if anyone wants to talk about it, they just sit in my chair and skip to the point that they want to talk about. But a lot of the times we can just discuss things because people just play the game, they remember it. So we go, do you remember what happened at the third dragon? And you go, oh yeah, I remember the third dragon. We did this, and then you just go, okay, well maybe next time this is a bit more appropriate for the situation. And we go, okay, there's no need for replay for that. But replay is always up. Replay is always available. We try to use it when we can.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much for that extended insight. We will be getting into the game. So over to our duo at the desk to take us into Champ Select.
Thank you very much, Shocks, and of course for taking that time. Apologies for that delay, but we will be getting into the game in just a few moments. But quick shot, looking at this matchup, especially just getting right back into it. ROCCAT, they had a one-on-one week. They started to climb back up. Didn't look so great against the Copenhagen Wolves, but they did have that big win against Elements. However, now they're up against H2K, and that's a red-hot squad.
It is. If you look at the two teams, over the last 6 games, ROCCAT's gone 3-3. for H2K, they're on a 4-game winning streak. And actually, both of these teams have been performing better and better over the last 3 weeks. But it's H2K that have hit a higher level and a bigger performance stride. So according to trends, H2K should in theory be the stronger team, but according to all the pros and the opinions from coaches and players, it's ROCCAT that may still have an edge.
Yeah, they really do consistently get that praise for just being this team that you cannot underestimate. Sivir, Annie banned away H2K, they banned the Zed. Now they're taking their time about the next one. Let's see what they take away here next.
Well, it's interesting to see that we have not had a single Ahri today, which is somewhat surprising because it is still 5.3 and she was really, really popular last week. But taking the Zed and the Castellan away from Nukeduck, just getting him away from those assassin picks, but LeBlanc and Ahri still up and available.
That's very true. On the other side, ROCCAT are targeting on a very different player, hitting the pool of Kasing, actually, with the Thresh and Annie off the board now. So I want to see what their plan is in what they first picked. This leaves a lot of our traditional power picks available to top-tier junglers. Rek'Sai Jarvan still up so far with the ban. It's Aurelia taken off the board. Overpower did have a monster performance on that last week.
So today's theme in the EU LCS is let the OPs through, because all 3 of our picks and bans thus far have had targeted bans at specific players. Kasing, in the 4 games he's played, has only played Annie and Thresh. Those are the 2 champions under his belt. So this will be the first time that we're going to see him play something different. And like Deficio mentioned in the analyst desk a little while ago, if Kasing and Hyanin are able to get an advantage in lane, it translates to the rest of the map. It's how H2K beat Elements. It's also how H2K beat SK last week. So a lot of pressure on Kasing to find another comfortable champion, but we know he can play a few. Leona's still up, Nami's still up, Janna, more importantly, still up. And I think Janna Leona could be some considerations.
That's very true. And even though some of the supports have been depleted, there's still a lot of options for ROCCAT as well. We saw them playing Morgana twice last week. Woolite played 2 Corki games. And actually, overall for Woolite, it seems like they've done so much better when they've been on these mid-game power spike champions, not trying to let him hyper carry the game, as ROCCAT picks up the Lissandra as their first choice.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you bring up. You know, for Woolite, he's played 6 champions in comparison to Hyanin's 3. So Woolite and ROCCAT still trying to find a champion combo or a playstyle that suits them. Whereas for H2K, Hyanin, a little bit more versatile in that his 3 champions can do multiple things. He's played Sivir, Corki, Graves. You know, they fit into a multitude of team comps. But just look at how slow these teams are going through the phase. In contrast to the previous game where Unicorns and SK both got what they wanted, ROCCAT and H2K, a lot more discussion, a lot more thinking, a lot more planning, maybe caught off guard by the double support bans.
Yeah, they take their time down to the wire, but in the end of the day, they pick up the Kalista and the Rek'Sai. 2 very new champions there, locked in for H2K.
So Hyanin and Lulex going to be getting their champions locked in. Again, you've got Kite, you've got Engage, you've got scaling power. I still want to see what they combo with this Kalista, if it's going to be the likes of an Alistar like we saw from Fnatic. Wouldn't be too surprised. It's a great Engage combo, great peel as well, buying time for Kalista to get damage down. But you've still got your Assassins available in the mid lane. You've still even got Lulu if H2K want to go for sort of a protect the AD carry comp. It's something that they have done in the past. As well as Rumble, keep that in mind too.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the board, as we mentioned. So, I mean, you've got the Kalista coming in. That's the first time for Hyanin. But Lulex, he has 2 games on the Rek'Sai. They've won both of them. He's clearly comfortable in it. ROCCAT, on the other hand, they're going to take the Morgana pickup. They're also going to lock in LeBlanc. That's a lot of AP already in that comp.
It really, really is. And Nukeduck's going to get his traditional assassin once more. We assume that LeBlanc's going to go mid lane. 4 games played, decent stats, 13, 6, and 15. But questionable performances between the games.
Only 1 win out of that too.
We've seen ROCCAT try camp for him in the early weeks of the split. It didn't work out. We've also seen Nukeduck have better games as the week has gone on. But as it stands, it's just a lot of find a target, blow him up. You know, Frozen Tomb or Dark Binding, Distortion, Mimic Chains, etc. They just want to get somebody off the board instantly. And all of those options are going to be terrifying for a Kalista. If there's not enough protection for H2K, there's even more opportunities for ROCCAT to blow Kalista up much like Giants tried to do earlier today but failed.
And, you know, I like what they're doing. In light of what you're just saying, too, they're not only taking a tank here in the form of Maokai, but they have the disengage from Janna. You mentioned what was Kasing going to play, that his 2 supports so far have been off the board. It is going to be the Janna. This is going to be such a mobile bot lane that it's going to be really hard for ROCCAT to get that catch. But if they do, that's their win condition.
On the condition that Hyanin can auto-attack. There's not a lot of mobility in Kalista unless she is attacking in team fights. She gets a hop after every jump, yes, sure. But she doesn't necessarily have the greatest built-in escape, like in Ezreal, like a Tristana, like a Graves even. You know, those dashes, they are very reliant on positioning and timing. What I do like about the matchup, though, thus far, H2K have got their front line, they've got disengage from Janna, they've got an aggressive jungler in Rek'Sai. They just need to take a mid lane champion to round this out. If they want to go full protect the carry, you can go Orianna, you can go Lulu. I almost prefer Orianna for the team fight power that it can give.
On ROCCAT's side, they're going to go with what has typically been that hyper-carrying Tristana. It's picked up for Woolite. It's one of the many champions he did play. He played it twice. They've not had success on it. We'll see if that changes here. They also get the Jarvan.
So scaling again, new Tristana. We'll see how it works out, if they can put towers down. But again, disengage, you've got good power for ROCCAT. It's going to be all about finding that one target. I want to know what H2K decide to round out their team composition because of the fact that they've got this strong front line, they've got disengage, and they're putting a lot of pressure, a lot of faith into Hyanin, who has been enabled. Hyanin has shown much improved stats since Kasing has joined. The key is there enough protection to get away from Lissandra, to get away from LeBlanc? And it is going to be the Ahri lock-in. So we do get your traditional assassins for both Ryu and Nukeduck. They're just going to go head-to-head. And for H2K, mobility from your damage dealers. They want Ahri and Kalista dashing and diving around. Fnatic did it earlier with a Kassadin Kalista. And it'll be a similar kind of concept that they want to pull off.
Yeah, this is going to be an explosive game for sure. I really want to keep an eye on the mid lane matchup between Nukeduck and Ryu as the coach is there pondering after the lock-ins of all these champions. So with this comp filled out for ROCCAT's side, they historically have not been all that great in the late game. They've been beaten down in the mid games. They've been really, really good, but they're going back to this style where they have a very strong spike towards the end of the game. What do you think about this one, Quickshot?
I actually quite like ROCCAT's team composition. There's been questions asked of some of their picks and bans in the past, but I like the fact that they have a whole lot of CC. They do have disengage power with Morgana, with Tristana, so they have the option to get rid of anybody that jumps onto them if Maokai and Rek'Sai decide to do that. So I think all of the tools are there for ROCCAT. The key is going to be this laning phase for ROCCAT to get ahead, because if they do, the only 2 damage threats from the side of H2K can actually catch them off guard, because of the fact that H2K are, again, banking on this duo sort of protection of mid plus 80 carry.
All right, it's time for you guys to chime in after you've heard us and what we had to say. Go ahead and tweet at LOL Esports with the hashtag ROC win or H2K win and let us know who you think came out on top. The crowd is ready. We heard them hyping up even in the delay, but here we are on to the field. ROCCAT versus H2K.
Yeah, and something that's also interesting to point out, Europe is about 2 weeks off of the Kalista hype. North America was running Kalista about 2 weeks ago. Multiple AD carries, multiple teams back to back to back, and also picking her fairly early. Last week kind of dipped off a tad as far as North America is concerned, but again, we're seeing her now picked up by the European AD carries.
And not just Freeze.
Yes, and Graves has dipped off. We're on the same patch as last week. We're on exactly the same patch, so it's interesting to see the trends and how teams are adapting and evolving their picks and bans and their team play.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool to see all the different regions do so many different things week after week and off of one another. So I want to see how they do end up stacking up. For now, ROCCAT are moving as 3 into this top side. They're getting spotted by a ward, though, so you mentioned the early aggression from them. They're certainly trying to live up to that right now.
Yeah, equaled by H2K. So ROCCAT invading on the top half of H2K's jungle. It is equaled, but on the bottom half, deep wards are going to get done. We'll see if anyone wants to look for that lane swap. The one thing that you do, of course, have to highlight is this Kalista plus Janna. It's going to be a fun lane if Hyanin and Kasing can make use of that Sentinel W damage. You can get the Eye of the Storm, get that bonus AD, get some stacks on Rend and Pierce, and all of a sudden you've got a lot of burst that can come out. So the ability to bully Woolite and Vander if Hyanan and Kassin can find that 2v2, I think is actually going to work out in their favor. And they've already demonstrated they can take out Forgiven and Unrated. They did that last week in great fashion with their, I believe it was Siva plus Annie duo lane.
This is a slightly different one, but we'll see how it does go. The lane swap comes in completed for ROCCAT. They've yet to send anyone down bottom. Jungle Buddy system overpowered. Yanko's going to go ahead and do that.
So they decided against it. No deep vision from H2K into the lane. And we just saw ROCCAT revealing themselves top. So going to be the battle of the pushers. You know, both Janna and Morgana have the ability to push their waves with the Howling Gales and the Tormented Soil. But we need to see if Woolite and Hyanan want to get the damage down onto the towers and see if they want to push them out quickly or not.
Yeah, I like this for ROCCAT's landing phase especially, at least in the bottom lane, what she's now become the top lane for them. Just because Tristana has such a typically rough start to it, both supports very pokey, but up against the Kalista, it could be really, really rough, and Woolite has been wanting to have a much more laid-back lane.
Yeah, and you know, if ROCCAT ever get to a tower, with the Jarvan attack speed increase, with the changed explosive charge from Tristana and the fact that she's got a rapid fire, towers are going to go down so quickly. But what you did notice is ROCCAT stole a whole lot of Lulex's jungle from the top half of the map. It does look like it's being replied, as Oda1 and Lulex are holding hands. They're using that sentinel vision to know that the buff hasn't been taken, so this is a relatively safe trade. And both teams have just said, look, we know you've got the numbers advantage on your respective half of the map. We won't go where you are, you don't come where we are, and we'll see who comes out ahead. Because again, extensive buddy system, different to what we've seen from the two previous games.
Yeah, the non-aggression pack coming in here. It's a gentleman's start, really quick shot. And we have seen this in the past when the lane swap comes in, that both teams really just say, okay, well now the jungle control is split rather than horizontally but vertically. Oh, very early dragon start, by the way, for H2K here. Lulex just says, let's go.
And not too unsurprising, considering the way this early jungle swap or this lane swap has played out. H2K actually have impressed me with their early game decision making. About 3 weeks ago, they also did a buddy system start, which led to Oda1 and Lulex doing a 4.5-minute tower dive in the bottom lane against, I can't remember who exactly, but it was something that was very smart to see, that they took advantage of the scenario, they read where their opponents were, and a 4-minute dragon. It's not worth a whole lot right now, but it will scale, and it's going to give H2K control of that in pits.
Well, to talk about the objective control that H2K's had, I mean, last week it was just absolutely phenomenal. They got 9 out of 10 dragons in their 2 games. They got all the barons. There's only 2, admittedly, but that's still controlling that one. They got almost every tower that they possibly could get. They really have been on top of the objective control, and no vision there. I mean, why would there be? It's 3 minutes into the game. Okay, they go ahead and take it. They grab the first dragon at about 4 minutes in.
Yeah, even more important than the vision was just the fact that H2K, it was so safe. They knew that nobody was there. It had led from an invade with Oda1 and Lulex moving into the jungle. But what H2K have done with their leads in the past is just accelerated the game and ended up picking up relatively convincing wins. You know, they did it against SK, they did it against Elements, which we've already mentioned. So for H2K, it's not a lane victory, but it is a map victory, and we'll need to see how they get their control. Neither AD carry went for a fast push. Neither AD carry looked for the early gold. So we could be settling in for a slightly extended laning phase, Pyro.
I think we might be doing that quick shot. Also worth noting, too, during that Dragon, Hyanan stayed in lane the entire time. They didn't actually need him as a result. He's been able to just farm away quite safely. He's actually a little bit ahead of Woolite, not by much. Oda1 getting chased out, actually gets hit with the Dark Binding. Still a pretty tanky tree as early as this is, however.
Yeah, very interestingly, up until this point, Woolite had not scaled his explosive shot at all. Had put 1 point to Q and W, and I think only just recently put those skill points in. But there's your public vote, Pyro.
Yeah, pretty close, actually. ROCCAT winning that one just by a hair. H2K, still something to prove. Oh, Lulex is moving on up.
So this is the first time that H2K have made a move into the area of the map that their opponents have control over. Support from Kasing in the top lane. They've left Hyanan to solo farm. And Lulex with that tremor sense, getting a reading on his opponent Yankos, so he knows where he is. He can try to put a challenge down. It kind of looked more like a counter gank position. It didn't look like he was trying to set something up. It's very difficult to gank a Black Shield rocket jump lane.
It's very true. It does have a lot of the mobility to move around, though. They cleared out that Scuttle Crab Shrine, but a lot of wards littering around, so easy to spot out. And even if they'd gotten the jump, there are those escapes available. So, well, Odoamne and Kasing will continue to try and grab a little bit farm back versus Lulix and Vander. The bottom lane will continue to poke it out as well.
So we need to see how this plays out. To go back to the coaches' discussion from earlier, if I recall correctly, mentioning that they didn't really want to see Odoamne on a Maokai. He's a great playmaking top laner, but his team and this composition will work well with this Maokai. We'll see what sort of impact he can have. This will only be the second time he's played this champion, but you do see now Jarvan plus Tristana, that explosive shot, getting some damage down onto the tower, but that AoE just means Woolite takes 1 or 2 extra hits. That's 2 waves, and about 75% of the hit points is gone.
Yeah, early flag, but Jankos doesn't take it. He actually takes a lot of tower damage, but they have been able to push this one pretty far in. We'll see how they're able to do on that. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, really hasn't been too much tower damage here, but Overpow zoned out just a little bit versus Hjarnan.
So we just need to keep track of how the CS is going between the respective laners. AD carries have been uncontested for the most part. And the only time that we saw Woolite go aggressive was when he had the support of his jungler. That was obviously a few moments ago. Now that Jankos has backed away, Woolite and Vander feel safe to take this first tower of the game. It will be going down shortly. And it's just a moment. Yeah, it's just a safe farming lane. 70 CS on the board. Woolite, oh, the Janna shield actually saves it.
Oh, yeah.
Did not expect that.
It will live for just another moment. Kasing keeps that tower alive. ROCCAT still able to push in, but you got to be careful as Woolite, even though he's level 6, a little bit lower here in the bottom lane. Jankos waiting in the wings to try and pick up Hjarnan if he gets a little over-aggressive. Overpow, 2 levels down against him, though.
Yeah, Lulix is relatively close by, but he's going the opposite direction, and there's no tunnel to rush to. So one of the things that I like seeing about on Rek'Sai's, especially in these lane swaps, is defensive tunnels as close to your lanes as possible. If Lulix had put a tunnel near the bottom outer turret, he could have the opportunity to react. He's most likely going to get 6 off this next buff, so we'll see where he decides to go. Jankos is still waiting in that bottom lane.
Yep, tower does get taken out eventually up in the top side. This frees up Odoamne, not have to worry about defending it too much, and you can see that dual lane backing away. Hjarnan's still staying very safe in here, so a lot of time is spent by Jankos.
Oh, not anymore. Jankos is
there we
going
go.
in.
The flash forward. They're going to try the 1-2 combo on him, the claw, to close the distance. Teleport coming in, but Hjarnan is going down for first blood, and it's canceled by Overpow.
Yeah, flash, heal, and teleport all secured from that first blood. Jankos involved in the kill, but this time around it gets given to Overpow. And we also heard from the analyst desk, Overpow, a player that has been struggling in recent weeks. That's a good start to his game on a champion that he could carry with.
Yeah, Jankos giving that kill and that gold over to Overpow. Good team play there. And even though he is the first Blood King, the first assist isn't too bad either.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Hjarnan going to make his way towards that Blade of the Rune King first item, which has been sort of the standard here in Europe for Kallistas. Woolite going the more traditional Infinity Edge. Even CS basically across the board. And that was that sort of mobility side of the question we talk about when you look at a Kallista. Yes, she can dash and chase and get very good damage down with that rend. But the moment a Lissandra, a LeBlanc, even a Morgana lock her down, so easy to kill.
Yeah, I want to see how this dual lane does now that it's actually facing off against one another. Ryu in this brush, thinking he's being sneaky, but he's standing on top of a ward, and Nuke Duck is laughing in his sleeve.
Yeah, going to have the information he needs to work with. So, Ryu, we've actually not looked at this middle lane at all, to be fair.
It's been very quiet.
Focusing more on the swaps. And Nuke Duck and Ryu, even on CS, you've got a slightly more defensive start from Ryu with the MR. Nuke Duck got the makings of a DFG, albeit it's not in the game. And Dragon number 2 goes to H2K, also uncontested.
Yeah, not only that, now they've got Hjarnan starting to scale up just a little bit. The longer the game goes, the easier it is to pick up objectives like that because you have basically an extra smite in your Callista Ren proc. It's going to be difficult for ROCCAT to contest these. They're 2 dragons to none right now. H2K continuing to control.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Despite the fact that H2K are a tower down, their ticking time bomb has got a much shorter fuse, and that's a great charm.
Yep, Nuke Duck is going, however, to deal more damage to Ryu than he got out against him, so I'll force the back away for just a moment. Very even on CS in that mid lane. That's the first real action we've seen, too. Overpow is actually moving down in here.
So if anybody has watched the games from earlier in the day, Fnatic were in a similar position against Giants, fell a little bit behind early, and it was their team fighting and positioning on their Callista AD carry that helped them win Dragon fights from about the 22nd minute onwards. Or a little bit earlier, in fact. ROCCAT are going to need to do what Giants could not. ROCCAT need to use Nuke Duck to go around in from the side lane, maybe even a Yankos to get a Cataclysm down. And if you can get Hyanin just to be in a little bit of an unopportune position, that's when they can get all of that assassination from LeBlanc from the Sandra. Because you've seen how hard a Kalista can carry already.
Yeah. It is definitely scary if they let that one get rolling. Overpower just keeps hanging around in this side, ringing around that river brush. Bot lane still relatively quiet. Will likely take some damage early on, but he's been playing safer since then. And H2K actually trying to assert some dominance over by this Baron side. Gonna force Overpower back.
Yeah, and really defensive tunnels from Lulex. Look how deep his tunnel network is on his side of the jungle. For Lulex on Rek'Sai, this is the third time he's played the champion, and his kill participation is quite low. It's only 55% of his team's total kills when he's been on this particular champ. And one of the things that successful Rek'Sais do, especially European Rek'Sais that get kills early and get involved, is have the balance between aggressive tunnel positions as well as lanes that they can gank for. We'll see if this tower dive works out, because Odoamne's got a point-and-click route.
Yes, he does. He's going to use it right there. Overpower taken down to half his HP, throws down the tomb on himself. And Odoamne is perfectly fine to tank that tower shot up, gets out, and they take down Overpower.
Very, very well played. They landed everything they needed to. Helps when it's point-and-click. And even with the Frozen Tomb, Overpower gets shut down. So smart play, I think, from H2K. The only thing is it doesn't equate into objectives. Yes, they got a kill, but they're still down on gold. They didn't stick around to push the wave in. The minions had sort of reset. And the fact Odoamne was dropped so low, it was going to be a bit risky. So, well played. Good coordination. And the kill was picked up by Lulex as well. So that's a good start to help get this Rek'Sai into a slightly stronger position.
Yeah, Lulex himself going to start pushing on this top, but Overpower is coming back. He's going to back away, actually, after all of that. Down in the bottom lane, it's just been pretty much a bit of a CS fest as well. It looks to catch back up and close that gap. Small one as though it is with Hyanin.
Yeah, and you know, if you look at the itemization here for Odoamne, just to go back to this top lane, he's actually got the makings of a Righteous Glory. So not going to go for that Rod of Ages, not going to go for the slightly beefier, slightly more damage-dealing route. Going to go almost full tank. And it's just going to, again, play into the team comp that H2K want. They want Rek'Sai, Janna, Maokai to run interference, to be on that front line, and while the three of them are causing chaos and confusion and disruption, it allows Hyanin and Ryu to pick themselves up a bunch of kills. With Hyanin picking up 3 attack speed daggers, I can only assume he's going to go Blade of the Rune King into the Hurricane. Not going to go for the BT, which we saw out of Steelback earlier.
Yeah, it's a bit of a discount order before he gets into that build, so a little bit of cheap attack speed for the time being. Dragon, about 2 minutes on the clock. They set up with the Scuttle Crab Shrine, and Lulex clearing away the vision as well. So really trying to make sure that they are denying ROCCAT every chance they get. Wollite, oh, he's got a lot of spears in him. He's going to jump away, not before getting rended. Rended, is that a word?
It is now. Okay. I like that word.
Awesome. We're going to throw that in Webster's, but Odoamne, he's not going to get to stick around for just a moment. He moves back.
Forced a flash, but traded top lane flash for top lane flash. What I like from Lulex, you pointed out, with Dragon in 2 minutes, Lulex instantly is putting wards down in the enemy jungle, so H2K can make an informed decision. But Ryu, he's been caught by Nuke Duck.
Yeah, he did get the tower, but he might be regretting it. Spirit Rush forward as Lulex comes in and pops the clones. Nuke Duck dashing away and dashing back in, actually, as Overpower comes into tag.
So Teleport was used from Overpower. That's important. If Overpower does not stick around for this next Dragon, which is a minute away, we see multiple champions backing. Ari's backing, LeBlanc is backing, Tristana as well. So we need to see which items get picked up in preparation for the next fight. It's 16 minutes and a potential 3rd Dragon on the way. If H2K wanted to go for the 5-Dragon victory, they're very, very close already, and Odoamne, he might get chopped down.
Well, yeah, you mentioned going, well, okay, I'll talk about my point in just a minute, because Odoamne could be in some serious trouble. Going to Twisted Advance onto Overpower, trying to make his great escape, but there are just too many members of ROCCAT here, and Yankos is going to get himself a kill. 30 seconds on the Dragon right now. Odoamne is going to come up right before. He might have to use his teleport if they want to contest, though.
Luckily, he has teleport. His opposite number, Overpower, does not, and you can see Overpower backing, so he's going to need to quickly make his way down. Odoamne does have that Righteous Glory completed, so he's going to be able to give his team even more mobility and even more kiting in these team fights. But all of the vision that H2K had set up has been denied, has been taken out. There's some tunnels.
Big range Dark Binding, but Nuke Duck coming in after the fact, and there's a teleport now. Otoame is going to spend it. They're going to look to chase down Nuke Duck. He's got no tower to fall back to, and they're just going to try to pop both of them. They're going to get one, get two. That's taken down Nuke Duck. Otoame getting the credit. Lulex now in some trouble as he got the frozen tomb on Woolite, trying to stay alive. He's going to manage it, but Vander is now in some trouble himself. A jungler from mid lane traded. They didn't even have the dragon in their sights, but now they do.
Yeah, they didn't have dragon, but they didn't even have their AD carry. H2K managed to win that team fight off a great teleport and punishing ROCCAT for, trying to chase the Dark Binding. With Rend, it's Rend versus Smite. We need to see if Jankos decides to commit. He's got no flash to get out, and he does decide to back.
There we go. There was so many spears sticking inside of that dragon. Doesn't have the same thick scales that Smog does, apparently.
No, not the Rift Dragon.
There's only one weak spot in Smog. That's all it needed, apparently.
I'll take your word for it.
Going back to this game, H2K, 3 dragons now. Let's see how this whole thing unfolded.
Well, we need to see. We're watching the Void Rush. This was a tunnel that had actually been placed earlier and had not been cleaned out. And it's quite smart. You notice how an aggressive tunnel from Lulex all of a sudden allows him to get behind. And yes, ROCCAT managed to kill Lulex, but they focused him so much, it allowed Ryu and Otoame to keep pushing down. Again, that was a team fight that H2K took without their AD carry, and they managed to burst Woolite so low he had to back off. But well played, and that tunnel's now been cleared out, ROCCAT realizing their mistake.
Exactly. So while they didn't get the kill, and obviously a little disappointing when you can't quite finish the job, they did enough to zone him out. They've got the 3 dragons start. So unlike our earlier game where it started with 2 dragons for Giants and then completely turned around by Fnatic, it's 3 dragons to 0 still here. H2K also a slight gold lead, 2 towers to 1. However, ROCCAT have built a comp for the later game.
They have, and I actually think H2K scaled pretty well on their side too, but the risk is always going to be the flanks. I think with the buster shots from Tristana plus the black shield from Morgana, there's actually a few more tools available to ROCCAT to find the fight that they want, to find the engage that will allow them to jump onto here on it. But for the time being, ROCCAT have not managed to find that. So, Dragon's going to come up in the next few minutes. I'm lying to you because it just got taken down at about 17. So, it'll be a little while. But around the Dragon Pit is going to be ROCCAT's safest bet. If they can keep H2K in a smaller pit, have Nuke Duck flank from one side, Overpower from another, and time their engage correctly, that can be how they punish the low damage threat from H2K.
Yeah, that is what they'll need to do to get back into this one. They can't really afford to give up too many more dragons if it does get into that 5th territory. That's going to be a little scary. Taking a look at the items right now, you see Lulex actually going a very tanky build after he goes ahead and finishes his warrior, going for the Aegis completed right now.
Yeah, and against the double AP, 2.5 AP threat from the Morgana as well. Smart itemization. We do see Hyana going for the Hurricane. And it's just been a slow and steady matchup. Overall, there's slightly more CS on ROCCAT's side, thanks to the fact that Overpower does have a 20 lead over his opposite number. And Ryu has only got a 10 advantage over Nuke Duck. But Nuke Duck's almost got his death cap. He's got a Morellonomicon built up, so there's enough damage to blow up a Janna, to blow up a Callista, or even to blow up a Ryu with that slightly higher MR.
If they can catch him, that's
the trick.
Now, see, I feel like, yes, this game has been a little more slower paced, but we're comparing to earlier today, which has just been super high octane, and Ryu's going to get a little bit of damage there out on Nuke Duck. This game has just been more, I feel like, level-headed from both teams. They're very much calculating before they go ahead and take a risk.
Yeah, and both of these teams want to keep putting wins on the board. You know, ROCCAT are in this game at a record of 4-6. So they're tied down at the bottom of the table. They're not in a playoff position yet. So this would be an important win for ROCCAT, and for H2K, of course, they're looking to keep up their winning streak.
You're right.
But the thing,
like, continue the comeback.
Yeah, the thing that's going to tip this game will be one big team fight. In a similar vein to Fnatic Giants, you see towers being traded. They've caught Lulex, but this could get risky. How quick can H2K reply?
Oh, they can't get out of there in time. At least Otoame was moving around, but yeah, they've started to try and collapse on him here. Here we go, Vander, Black Shield on him, but the Twisted Advance goes all the same. Ryu dashing forward. Do they have enough damage to finish off Vander? No, but they're going to land the charm on Jankos anyways. He is going to burn his own flash. tower now being fired down. Ottawamne, though, doesn't even want that. He wants the kills. They're going to have to back away. They do have a minion wave here, and it looks like they should be able to polish off the tower.
Let's see if Nukeduck can reply in the bottom lane. That was a flash. Doesn't manage to connect.
Nope, not quite enough, but meanwhile, Nukeduck just continues to chug away at this tower. Not got quite enough damage. The minion's starting to evaporate, but he's not being pushed back. H2K, they did get the one. It looks like it may be a trade. Rek'Sai Scream is just going to go towards the middle. It's going to be a while before they get there. Tower's already gone.
Yeah, but again, look at the ward network from Lulex. It's only in the top half of the map. If he'd had some slightly more more options available in the bottom half, may have been able to get behind Nukeduck. If you evaluate the trade, it ends up being even in towers, but ROCCAT gained one additional kill. They found the pick and managed to come out slightly ahead. So again, ROCCAT in a fairly even position, despite the fact that they traded these objectives. So it really feels like we're going to get down to one of these very big Dragon or Baron fights that might determine the entire game.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of a callback to where we were at the beginning of the season. Okay, is it Dragon time? Okay, is it Baron time? Otherwise, let's just try to be safe. Let's maybe make a power play if they make a mistake. But if another team's going to make a massive mistake, well, we're going to be at that farm fest. So with Hurricane completed now on Hjarnan, he's got a lot of attack speed, not a lot of damage, but he's still wave clearing like a beast.
Yeah, give him enough time, and those Ren stacks will hit really hard. But for ROCCAT, this is actually quite impressive. ROCCAT's a team that's had a pretty bad laning phase, an early game for most of the split, whereas H2K has gotten better and better and better. H2K single-handedly won games in a single lane in the last couple. So for ROCCAT to go even, despite being down dragons, they're not in a terrible position. And look at their placement on the map. ROCCAT are not willing to give up this next dragon uncontested.
They're not even willing to let H2K is not even willing to let ROCCAT see this dragon. They want to keep denying that vision. It's going to be started up again, but ROCCAT are here, and they are ready to take the fight. It's going pretty low. They're going to actually turn on to Jankos, who's going to go in, tries to get it down, but the Ren procs, they've got him juked. Lulex, though, a little bit low on this one. Who's going to go down first? It looks like it's going to be Jankos, shortly followed by Overpow. H2K, Kasing, going to get pulled in. They're going to send him out onto Woolite. Ottawamne was already there, but he's taken down Kasing. It is a 2-for-1 trade, but H2K have their 4th dragon to none for ROCCAT.
Yeah, and Hjarnan just went untouched that entire fight. ROCCAT were not able to get the damage down onto him. Lobbing a Janna into the opponent team is nowhere near as effective as lobbing an Alistar. So Woolite was able to escape thanks to the reset. Yeah, thanks to the reset on his rocket jump. Take a look at the damage dealers here. Yes, Lulex gets burst out by Nukeduck, but Lulex is not the integral member of the team fight. Nukeduck needs to jump on either Hjarnan or Ryu. Ryu and Hjarnan still have 100% hit points by the time ROCCAT decide to peel away. And this is where Ottawamne plus Kasing jump in, but that's just basically destroyed from Woolite. I think
he got served up a kill there.
Yeah, decent attempt from ROCCAT, but just not the right people to get the damage on. So H2K, one dragon away at 23 minutes. We could see an aspect before 30 minutes on the clock, Pyra.
It's very, very possible. ROCCAT, they're not too far down in gold, and they're even on the towers, but they just haven't been controlling the dragon pit very well. And H2K been fighting better in the pinch. And for a team, you know, they want to scale up in the later game. Well, previously it seemed like you beat ROCCAT in the late game. At this point, H2K is saying, no, we can beat them in the mid.
H2K said they want to beat them by dragons. And
well, they've got 4.
Like, this is 9 kills. This isn't a game that's been determined by team fights or by finding a pick onto a champion. Every time a tower has fallen, it's because Team A was in position to punish Team B, or Team B reacted to a play from Team A. And because of that sort of back and forth, you do A, I do B, you do C, that's why they're even on gold, that's why they're even on towers. ROCCAT has just had 0 presence in the Dragon Pit, which is why they've given up 4. And by the time they finally started to pick a fight, they hadn't yet, they haven't found their team fight groove, and they've got a lot of making up to do. They've got one last chance before Aspect of the Dragon is secure.
Yep, they're going to have to make sure it's not given away here. Nukeduck, he himself, is going to be given away by himself. Nearly picks up Kasing. I wasn't even saying the right thing there. Ottawamne gonna get the jump on now. Nukeduck himself getting popped. And that is a very quick tree when he wants to get rolling. Thanks to that Righteous Glory, just like that.
Yeah, and thanks to the Righteous Glory, he got in range to follow Nukeduck after a flash, so that allowed Ottawamne to lock down Nukeduck. And of course, if you miss those chains, you're not going to kill the support. So we did see Kasing put some distance, and with the numbers advantage, H2K using that tremor sense to get positioning on their opponents, and they're sieging the inner turrets.
Yep, just out of charm range. Janko's not going to take that much damage. They do clear the waves away, and the Sentinel. But H2K did get some serious damage on this one, and they are starting to siege off. About 1,000 gold ahead of ROCCAT. It's about the highest it's been.
I really want to go back to the beginning, the lane swap. Neither team pushed the wave until Jankos joined Woolite. And by time that decision had been made, H2K had actually secured two dragons. They got the 4-minute dragon, and they got the 10-minute dragon. And since then, ROCCAT just have not been able to push H2K around. You know, ROCCAT sets up a kill in the top lane. H2K reply by taking an inner turret. And every time ROCCAT try to get involved, it just feels like their timing is a little off. We do see Lulex under a little bit of pressure get away.
About a pixel away, yeah, Lulex. He did get caught a couple of times, but that time was not one of them. ROCCAT continued to try and push this one out. H2K have been, but in particular, one thing that we haven't even done justice to, we've mentioned a few times, but they've just been denying so much of ROCCAT's vision to try and make sure to secure that. There's the red buff going down as ROCCAT just comes a step too late. And they just kind of haven't been on the same page as H2K have been able to rotate around the map a lot quicker than they have.
Yeah, and up until this point as well, with setups for dragons, Lulex has been able to put some deep wards in. ROCCAT has done a very good job of clearing those wards out, to be fair. So they don't last particularly long, but it gives H2K the time and the information they need. With all of the tunnels that are placed around Dragon, you can see Lulex is setting himself up. If ROCCAT want to pick a fight around here, they need to deal with all the tunnels or deal with a flank. And you've got, you know, the Chilling Smite, Locket, plus Giant Spell. You've got a Frozen Heart completed for Oda on Maokai. There's two pretty beefy high hit point totals, and Woolite still doesn't have any armor pen or any massive items. He's got 2 completed, but he's going to take a long time to burn through both of those front lines.
Yeah, that is going to be stark reality. This fight does start. Dragon about 35 seconds away. Vander pops the black shield on himself, avoids Kasing's knockup. Oduwamne in the front. They're going to try to clear out this vision. They're going to try to find Woolite, who's going to immediately hop away, trying to start the fight off. Looks like they didn't quite have enough follow-up. Got pushed back. Good Dark Binding by Vander to slow that one down. But all the same, it's back to the Dragon Pit.
It is, and ROCCAT have not expended anything. That was a rocket jump to safety. Woolite still has his flash, still has his summoner heal. Oduwamne still got a couple seconds before that Righteous Glory comes back up, and H2K have a wave pushing against them in top. So this is really smart. ROCCAT have got presence in the river and in the bottom half of the map that they are forcing H2K away. H2K are not looking for the straight up engage. They're trying to pick off a solo target. Wait for Oduwamne's Righteous Glory to come up before I expect to see him dive in.
Yeah, they're not proccing the Dragon either. They definitely don't feel safe to try this one. And now it looks like they start to bail out of the pit. Still a game of chicken between ROCCAT and H2K here as the Dragon does finally get started. Do they have enough damage to burst it down though?
Yeah, H2K could decide to go for the inner mid turret, or they want to pick a fight. Oduwamne, Righteous Glory is available. And look at ROCCAT, they're just keeping the Dragon tagged.
Oh, they're stacking up. Who's going to get it, though? It looks like it's going to go over Dragon number 5 to H2K as Lulex gets the smite down, and they immediately take out Jankos. ROCCAT in full retreat. There are minions pushing on that tower, but they're not worried about it right now. They are looking for these kills. Ryu dashing in and able to get a bit of a tag here. Vander isolated, and that is going to be him going down. It's going to go over to Ryu. 2 for none. Dragon number 5.
Yeah, never gonna... I think it's risky to try go for a smite fight against a Rend plus smite on the side of H2K. H2K grab the 5th dragon and really just run down ROCCAT one by one. They didn't necessarily need a phenomenal engage or to find a phenomenal pick. They just take advantage, comboing Rend plus smite. I think Jankos actually hit that a little early. Didn't even get the chance to, now that I look at it. Yeah. And ROCCAT were in full retreat. The moment that Dragon was secured, the rest of the team was peeling away. Overpower wasn't in position. Nukeduck and Woolite were backing away. And Jankos was the sacrificial jungler.
Admittedly, they didn't give up as much as they could have. They didn't lose a massive
Yes,
hit. They just got a
true.
couple of them picked off, but playing so safe can only get you so far. Peeling off the Baron right now. Overpow coming up with a pick onto Ryu. Nuke Dog also down in this one. However, the Baron is going to get picked up by H2K, and they're going to clean up everyone but Vander taken off the board for the price of 1 Fox.
30 minutes on the clock, and H2K have got 5 dragons and a Baron. You can see how disappointed Overpower and Yankos look in your player cams at the moment. H2K have got every single tool they need to finish this game out, and they didn't take risks. They didn't put themselves in a bad position. They played it safe. Yes, we see Ryu getting blown up, but just look how quickly the members of ROCCAT die in return, especially with all of the damage mitigation Odawamne's putting out. It's just great play. It's really good play from H2K.
It really is. You saw in the bottom that they were able to grab that inhibitor in the middle, so H2K just methodically pushing in ROCCAT. They've got a pretty solid gold lead here, about 8,000 ahead. That 5 dragons to 0 the Baron, 6 towers to 4. I mean, these guys really are the objective kings, and they're proving it once again.
Yeah, I mean, H2K, they've not chased kills, they've not chased team fights. They said, we've got an early couple of dragons, let's just play for 5 dragons, and that's exactly what they've done.
Kind of reminds you of SK, doesn't it?
In some ways. H2K played the lanes, I think, a little better, because when you look at H2K, you could argue, Lulex's tunnels, you could argue some of the side lanes, but that's not been the focus. H2K have said, rocket on pushing our towers, rocket on pushing the map, we don't need to worry about it, because we can just wait for the dragons. One thing to note, H2K are most likely going to close this game out. They will own the head-to-head versus ROCCAT 2-0.
Yeah. If they can do just that, they have all the tools, as you mentioned. It's still a pretty solid lead for them. ROCCAT, there's some life in him yet, but they certainly have to fight it out and be much more proactive than we have seen. I mean, this is a team that we mentioned should look pretty good going into the late game, but at this rate, they're not going to make it there.
And the game is very interesting because ROCCAT have not made mistakes. They've just not gone in. They are now, though.
Yeah, they're certainly going to try, but is it too little, too late? Overpow goes in, throws down the Zanya's Hourglass. Odawamne tanking up so much, and there is H2K turning on the gas. Yarden coming up with a double. Can he get more? He's going to tag in. Ryu gets one more pickup onto Woolite. 3 kills, 4 none. Inhibitor is going down here. 33 minutes into the game. H2K looking to close this one out.
They're going to close this out, Pyro. They're on the Nexus turrets.
Yep, and they're looking for even more kills. No thank you, says Nuke Duck, who just hides in the safety of his fountain, but it won't save the game. Nexus turrets falling. The Nexus itself, desperate attempt, will not happen as ROCCAT goes down. H2K come up with another victory.
Five and 0. H2K undefeated with Kasing. The roster swap from 3 weeks ago is working out. And this is such a weird game because I don't feel that ROCCAT made mistakes in individual play. I feel that their shot calling is what let them down. I don't feel like they pushed the map. I don't feel they pushed dragons. And this is a non-conventional game because it was so even for so long. It was only the dragons, that was it. But you can't give a team 5 dragons and expect to still win.
I agree, and this has been ROCCAT's problem for a while, is that they can last a while, they can stall, but they're just not proactive in those calls. And H2K took full advantage of that. You can see that, big smiles on their faces. And yes, since Kasing, undefeated, well played, but ROCCAT, you have a lot to think about.
Yeah, you contrast this game to last week. ROCCAT were able to punish elements. I mean, those are very serious faces from the guys, but it was a one-sided game from the Dragon control. And that was it. Everything else was even.
Yeah,
even CS.
Even 31 minutes.
No, there were even kills up until those last couple of fights. And just to contrast that game versus last week against Elements, Kevin made some poor calls on the map, and ROCCAT punished it. They dove him, they pushed him, they played the map, and they forced objectives. Today they were like, okay, we'll wait till the Dragon fight, we'll win a Dragon fight, and then we'll be back in the game. They didn't win that fight, and then it was like, well, we don't really have anything else now.
Yeah, and this is, of course, against a team that's going to push you in and pressure you for those objectives, deny so much vision, as opposed to what Elements has been showing us so far. So, yeah, against this team that is much more proactive, against a team that has that shot calling that says, okay, We can go in, but it's going to be for the purpose of pushing them off. We don't really want to take a dedicated fight unless they get too far forward. ROCCAT played it safe, and they just got edged out. There really wasn't anything else to say about it.
And for the second time today, Kalista was given time to scale. You know, we talk about top lane Aurelias, we talk about top lane champions being camped or being put into a position where you can delay the item spikes. You know, against Aurelia, you want to stop the Trinity Force. Against Kassadin, you want to delay the Rod of Ages, etc., etc. Against Kalista, she has a relatively weak laning phase against certain matchups, and there's just been no pressure. There was absolutely no threat on Hyanin. He went 3-1-7. He had 50 CS more than Woolite. Woolite was touted as the summer split rookie of the second half of the year, and he's also struggling. Yeah, I messed that one up. It was the rookie of the split. That was
there. We go.
And he's just simply not been able to have that same level of impact playing alongside Vanda.
And specifically, I mean, the AD carry difference is night and day. And this is another example of Woolite trying to go on a hyper carry champion and it just not working out. So, I mean, yes, that's all you can say there. So let's go ahead and head over to Shox, Deficio, and the coaches for a closer look into H2K's 5th straight win.
Thanks so much, guys. Yeah, H2K's 5th straight win and another loss on the board for ROCCAT coming in this one. How much of that was due to their pick and ban fades, Deficio? What did you identify as good and bad from both teams?
So pick and ban phase, it looked like ROCCAT were about to mess up completely when they had Lissandra, Morgana, and LeBlanc logged in, and we saw the Maokai coming in from H2K, which would have basically been unkillable, but then they got the Tristana, so I feel like they saved the comp somewhat. But in terms of like pure 5-on-5 team fighting, it was so much easier for H2K to play their composition, and I honestly feel like they would outscale them anyway. So once they started winning these fights in the mid game, it was basically over from there.
The whole game based around the 2 dragon fights that we saw, and we're going to come later on that with a replay of the first one. But as Deficio pointed out correctly, the Tristana saved the composition. With a double AP against the Malka, you do nothing. If you pick like a Corki or a Graves, like who are designed for the mid game, you do nothing against them and you automatically lose the late game. But with the Tristana, if with the right time and the right skill, he could have made it work. So the picks and ban weren't an indicator who's going to win that game.
Yeah, it's already been said. I don't feel like pick and bans were too relevant and the deciding factor of the games. It was really how they played it out.
Then talk me through the early game, because you all had quite a bit to say about the way things played out.
Well, so we had the lane swap obviously coming in, and I have to talk about Vander in this one. I know you want to talk about it as well, but his roaming is not very good. He doesn't really know when to recall. He misses some timings. The first dragon went over to H2K because he recalled too late. Once you hit level 2, just recall. Like, you don't have to steal XP for your AD carry. He was almost level 3 by the time he recalled and roamed, and the dragon was already gone. That should not have happened, in my opinion at least. And I feel like it was a problem we saw a few times from him.
Yeah, the early game in lane swaps is generally scripted. There's the correct thing, and then there's a bunch of other things you can do that are incorrect. You're supposed to base on level 2 on support, go buy some wards, drop some down, and then apply some map pressure. And among other things that you're supposed to do in a lane swap, he didn't do any of them. He was often I found myself questioning what is Vander doing on the map, and I feel like that contributed to their loss.
Yeah, with a right recall at level 2 without taking the additional half level, you are actually able to either gank or put pressure on the mid lane and then be able to contest that first dragon. That first dragon went uncontested because Vander was still at the top lane taking half the level in level 2. And that should never happen because those parts of the game, they should be scripted.
Yeah, and ROCCAT actually got a couple of kills, but as you said, their dragon control was lacking throughout the game. We actually have a team fight that we can show you guys because they do have the ability with their team comp and with a flanking Lissandra to make something happen if they want to.
Yeah, so just the fight itself here, it's a bit hard for ROCCAT to set up because they have to walk in through like a choke point, but we can actually just pause it right here in this case, because if you look at Vander and Woolite, they're standing now and only being able to hit Oduamne, so we're not going to get any Morgana ultis coming in here. Woolite is not able to have any impact, and you can see Overpower, he's on the other side of the Dragon Wall, he's about to claw over. However, he doesn't have an Outlast at this point because he went for Morel Nomicon as the first item despite being in a lane swap, and Morel Nomicon is basically a lane item itself. It's better just get like Codex and your cooldown reduction boots and then go straight Outlast if you want to fight. So once he goes in, I mean, you guys can talk about it. What happens when he actually engages at this point?
Yeah, because like, when you think about it, this is mostly a dragon game set from the get-go. Yeah, I rolled the clip. This is a dragon game from the get-go, and if you don't have Hourglass in the spot, you're not going to be very successful on Lissandra. So the ult comes in, ult onto Lulex. The ult should be on himself, and then you can see Ryu, Zoe, and Tristana out of the fight. Tristana has to jump out. And if Tristana's not auto-attacking, she's not being useful. And yeah, there's absolutely nothing there for Woolite to do, and the team was just split up. Like, that's not how you team fight with Rocket's team fight comp.
The focus should be on Rio, if you ask me, because in both Dragon fights, in the deciding moments of the game, we had Rio zoning out the most important parts of their team. The first one, he was completely zoning out the Tristana. Tristana was like able to hit like 5 or 6 auto tech that whole fight, while Kalista was doing work in the pit. Kalista totally destroyed the team, while the Tristana was zoned away from the Ahri. And in the second Drake fight, where we don't have a replay of, the Ahri denied the flank of the Lissandra, and with that flag, if that would have happened, the game would have been over, or that fight could have been won.
Yeah, it actually forced Overpow to use his only form of engage, his E. I don't know what the...
Yeah, the Claw of Doom or whatever.
The Claw, yeah. He was forced to use his Claw to escape Ryu, which made the fight a 5v4 on the other side. And you can't use your only form of engage to disengage. That's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and also for ROCCAT, when you want to play a comp like they're doing here, where you have this double AP, we can call them assassins some way, where they need to blow up a target. Obviously, you don't want the Maokai walking in first, so you need to be able to dive the back line. And in order for you to do that, you got to be there first around the objective. You need to have the walls placed down so you can see how H2K is coming in towards the Dragon area, and then you can pick your targets. But because H2K were there first, it allowed Ryu to get the zoning control, it allowed the Maokai to stand in the front, and suddenly we just didn't see any way of actually engaging from ROCCAT's side.
Yeah, when you go up to a dragon, and you know dragon's spawning, you need like a minute to 2 minutes, like minimum a minute, like minute to 2 minutes to prepare the dragon. And if you're walking into the dragon and the enemy has complete vision control allows them to plan out the fight perfectly, and it was just impossible for ROCCAT to win any of those fights without preparing for them.
Yeah. That was it for that one. Thank you very much for joining us. Leviathan is actually sticking around for a bit. Thank you very much, Dentist, for helping us out today. We need to step away for a few minutes, but when we return, Elements and their new support, Crepo, will face Meet Your Makers as they look to avoid another upset and start their climb in the standings. Stay with us.
The other funny
Go
stories.
guys, let's do
They clap for us, they clap for you. They all clap for Woolite.
They're gonna get one, get two. That's taken down. Nuke Duck One, they get the credit. Lulex now in some trouble as he got the Frozen Tomb on Woolite, trying to stay alive. Yankos, who's gonna go in, tries to get it down, but the Rent procs, they've got him juked. Lulex, though, a little bit low on this one. Who's gonna go down first?
Lulex, come to me. Okay.
Nice. You fighting? Nice.
Just nice. People clever. Nice. No.
German.
Nice. Nice.
Good job, guys.
Oda Wamne tanking up so much, and there is H2K turning on the gas. H2K come up with another victory.